What is your opinion in regards to the racism that we're going through in this day and age?
Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakallah khairan for having me. Obviously, this whole week there have been big conversations taking place within the Muslim community between Black Muslims and non-Black Muslims. And I think the issues are not new. These are issues that are long-standing. But I think up to now, the non-Black Muslim community has very successfully kind of quietened, our voices, saying this is divisive. Okay, we're all Muslims. There's no black, there's no white in Islam. They'll quote the Prophet ﷺ's sermon. They will say in Bilal radiallahu anhu, he was this, in order to quiet, to shut the conversation down. And so what has happened due to this upheaval in the States and spreading across the world is that Black Muslims are speaking up about their experiences, about what they have been through and what effect it has had on them. Because at the end of the day, we're all Muslims and we are all striving in this world to really do the best that we can, right? Every one of us wants to find their home, wants to find a place where they belong, where they are welcomed, and where they are appreciated. People want to start families, they want to have their children and raise them within the deen without, even more stress than there already is doing that in a non-Muslim world, right? So when it comes to sisters, there are layers that maybe brothers don't face, okay? And I'll go into a couple of these areas. One of them is that, of course, we all know and everybody's heard about the whole marriage issue and how a lot of families don't want their daughters to marry Black brothers. It's quite a common conversation, okay? Of course, there's many different reasons for that, but what you have to remember is that those Black brothers who are trying to marry Pakistani sisters or Arab sisters or Malaysian sisters, there are Black sisters who are basically just waiting. And, the attitudes towards Black women, specifically Black women in many traditional Muslim societies, is one that they are not desirable, that they are not beautiful, that they are the lowest, the least wanted, part of society. And, well, why would you ever want to marry a Black woman? And this is going back, in the Muslim world, actually, you can trace it back to many statements from even scholars about Black women. So not only do we have a society that tells Black women that they are not beautiful, that they are not enough, that they are not desirable, they don't fit the standard of beauty, but within the Muslim community as well, there is this shunning of Black sisters, and Black sisters being considered, the booby prize, if you like. That is affecting sisters in a way that only listening with humility can show you. And I feel like the conversations are happening, and I'm grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because whatever happens.
Sister Naima, I just want to take an opinion of Imam Shakil, inshallah, into this topic before we move on to so Sheikh, any input you want to put into this?
Yeah, so Jazakallah khair, Sister Naima, for those points. And I think very, very important. I mean, there's one point you mentioned, Sister, my take might be slightly different on it, but one issue here is we must listen. Yeah, and somebody who's not Black, and this is within the Muslim community, there's nothing really happening. I can't say this. Yeah. A non-Black person cannot be the one saying there is no racism, no, you're exaggerating. No, let's hear it from the people.
Right.
So one crucial point is, as a family, as a community, listen.
Right.
Listen, yeah? That's very, very important and crucial. The other point, Sister, is in terms of, and this I wanted to mention with Sheikh Mufti Menk, in terms of, colonialism.
Right.
We're blaming, our attitude is blame the white man for everything. No, that's a wrong attitude too. Yeah, if you probably read about the 9th century Zanj rebellion in Iraq. These were East Africans, Abbasid Khilafah. They rebelled because of racism and mistreatment that they were facing. There's things in history before colonialism came.
Shaykhana, now, one thing I have to go back to, inshallah, and that's in regards to we say we're blaming it on the white people.
Yeah.
Now, I personally don't think we're blaming it on white people. We should blame it on ourselves as well. Yeah. And not only that as well, Shaykhana, because I think it's easy to blame on a white person and say it's because of white people. Yeah. In Africa, most black people are married to their own people, but yet again, they choose, when it comes to marrying a woman, they choose the lightest skin for marriage purposes. So I can't blame only white people, but even black people are racist.
What I'm trying to say is, even that's happening, but people try and say, you know what, it's because of the white man that came to our land and so on. No, racism was there before within kind of like Muslim societies. Of course, Islam is clear. Just a one important point, I maybe disagree with you in this, and I don't know, maybe I misunderstood it. It's about, yes, let's hear the black voices, let's hear the oppression, but there should not be separation.
Right.
Yeah, there shouldn't be, because now what we're seeing is, you know what, we need our own events. We need our own kind of like masajid. No. That's not the solution.
Sure.
That way I kind of like, disagree with. Internally, it needs to be addressed and challenged, but we are one community and racism needs to be rooted out.
Now, Sister Naima, do you think, or what the Sheikh just mentioned, and I have to go back to it, do you think we should blame it on the white people, or should we blame it on racism?
No, I think we don't get away with blaming anyone, because we are all individuals with our own free will. And even if we've been programmed by the media, by colonialism, by our families, every one of us has the ability to learn and to retrain ourselves, right? And to do better.
Sure.
So we need to take responsibility, every single one of us, whether it's racism, sexism, whatever it is. That's our job. That's our work to do.
Right. And when you mentioned about the sisters, for example, in the community, that when it comes to marriage specifically, that when it comes to black sisters, mainly, a lot of people they're not paying much attention to a black woman. They will say to you, I would like to get married, but yet again, give me anybody except a black person. Now, from the experience that you've had, maybe we mentioned a couple of things, the reason why they don't believe they should be the perfect wife for them.
I don't care, to be honest. That's not my business, because
No, I'm saying from what you've heard.
And from what I've heard, of course, there's so many layers. And at the end of the day, how many of us really know where our preferences come from?
Sure.
Okay, because there's preferences. Everyone's allowed to have their preference. How do we know how much of those preferences are biased or bigoted? We don't know, because we're being shaped by society all the time, you know? So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it really is a case, as the Sheikh said, listening and giving people space to get their pain out, because once people are heard and action is taken, not tokenistic action, but real action is taken, this community will progress. And I am very hopeful of that, because we have seen ourselves as an ummah, as a community, making progress to listen more to the next generation, to listen to women more. And I believe that if we continue to do the work on ourselves,
excellent,
and try,
I'm going to bring Sister Naima, Sister Naima, inshallah, I want to bring Ustad Muawiyah, inshallah, into this discussion. And I want to ask you the same question, Ustad Muawiyah, about, again, going back to what the Sheikh just mentioned in regards to blaming the white or blaming the racist people. Do you believe, from your own opinion, that we should blame it on the white people, or should we blame it on the racist people? So again, we don't want to label one color. We want to, this is from the opinion that I'm asking, inshallah. So what is your opinion in regards to that?
That's an interesting question, because before I became Muslim, that was my stance for everything. As I mentioned before, my background before I became Muslim was, I would describe it as a racist. I used to hate white people badly. I kind of leaned towards an extreme version of the early Malcolm X movement. So the idea of blaming white people for X, Y, Z was something that I held as my opinion up until I became Muslim, and very soon after taking my Shahada, one of my closest friends when I first became Muslim happened to be white, and that was one of the most amazing things about Islam that I always refer to as that change. That a person who can hate someone purely because of their skin color can now be best friends with someone just because he's Muslim. And that's why I say that the only real solution to racism is al-Islam. It's difficult to tell a non-Muslim that, the only solution to your problems is al-Islam, because they're not looking for that. They want some kind of policy, some kind of regulation, some kind of, it's none of that's going to work. Anything that they do as a result of these Black Lives Matter thing, anything they do is only going to be short term, it's going to be limited, it's only going to be something on the surface. Nothing's going to be deep rooted, going to change unless they embrace Islam as a whole from the beginning of to the end of it. So yeah, so would I blame the white man? Isn't that the same narrative of saying all black people are X, Y, Z? I mean, isn't that the same kind of language we're using? The white man is this, the black man is that, the Asian man is this. At the end of the day,
Ustad Ma'awiya, one second, forgive me, inshallah. I want to bring the Sheikh into it, because the reason I picked on it is not because I want to pick on to what you just said, because we're trying to look at it from a Muslim perspective, and that is, we don't want to label anybody. And yes, you're just
remember, that wasn't my idea. Is not to make it seem right. I'm actually saying it is wrong. When people do that, when activists say, you know what, it's because of colonialism only. I'm trying to say, no. Racism was an issue before colonialism came in within Muslim communities.
Forgive me, I actually thought that's
no.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
I mean, one thing I would say though, in being balanced and fair, is that we can't also ignore the role of colonialism on this discussion. So if you actually look prior to colonialism, I think it's an echo. If you look prior to colonialism, there was qawmiya, but I don't think you would find it on the same kind of discussion as it is now. As in, there was this issue of my tribe and your tribe, from my people, your people, but it wasn't because you're black, particularly, that you are less or more. It was more of a tribal thing.
Sister Naima, sorry, Muawiyah. So, Sister Naima, I saw you nodding your head earlier on when he mentioned it. Is there any reason? I mean, did you agree with what he just said?
No, I was just saying that, you know, it's never a good idea to underestimate the forces of history. And you know, when we look at racism today, you know, it is a direct result of the initial racism that kind of fueled the slave trade, the racism that fueled colonialism and gave people the right to go into other people's countries and completely loot them and take their resources, and because it's the most scientific kind of racism, and it's also the most systemic kind of racism. So if you have systemic racism, that is baked into the system. And even if there was racism during the time of Khalifa, during the time of the Muslim caliphates, etc., I very much doubt that there was the same level of systemic prejudice against people of African descent, in the sense that these people will permanently be on the bottom, and the system works to make sure that they stay at the bottom. A few of them can rise, but the majority, we need them at the bottom. I don't think you've seen in society, Allahu Alam, but I don't think you've seen in other societies the level of scientific approach, you know, in the sense that, you know, scientifically these people are A, B, C, D, and also systemic oppression, systemic keeping of that people down, systemic exploitation as well. Sure. I don't think we could find the parallel in history.
Perfect. Sheikh, did you agree?
Can I just add?
Yeah, definitely.
And
definitely.
do you want to add into it, inshallah? Anything you want to add into it?
One point Sister mentioned before, she mentioned about black women or black sisters. And I was in a Muslim country, in a library, like a Muslim library, historical books, right. And they had covered the pictures of women,
right?
Yeah, you know, with a pen, and so you can't see the pictures of women, except the black women. I kind of like inquired. I said, look, why is that? Why have they left? And it was literally every picture of a black woman is uncovered, everybody else is covered, because they don't find them attractive. Yeah, so you know, that's kind of like what the sister was kind of alluding to. So that's quite important to kind of reflect on. And also, sister, I think you mentioned we are products of our society. At the same time, we are our values. Those values are religion. Those values are Quran. Those values are from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So while society might influence us, you know, our guiding values must come from Quran and Sunnah. And Quran and Sunnah is telling us these things are unacceptable. You know, a woman is a woman, black or white, needs to be respected, needs to be treated equally, and so on.
Barakallahu feek. Ustad Muawiyah.
Yeah, can I just make a point? The point I want to add to this Naima's input. There was a statement from a book by Thomas Sowell. It's a very good book. He mentioned about one of the things about the transatlantic and Atlantic slave trade that was very different from all previous examples of slavery in the past, in that it was the first time where slavery was divided by race. As in the past, anyone could be a slave, and most likely slaves were from their own people. Even the word slave comes from the Slavs, as in those who are European. So even in Islamic history, you find that it was a stereotype of being white as being slaves, because they used to go up to the European sides and then raid them and then take the slaves. So it wasn't a case where I mean, anyone had the capacity to be a slave, because slavery was almost like a status you were in. Whereas for the first time in history, and it's lasted for hundreds of years, literally one type of people or looked enslaved another type of people. That's one thing. And then on top of that, that whole practice was reinforced by the Darwinian beliefs of types of people. We have different levels of development, where you had the higher development, lower development. That actually changed the narrative of being, actually, this person is inherently lower form of human. And I think that is what made the discussion of racism very different now than it was in the past.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's probably why some Muslims probably don't realize how severe their behavior is, or how they are in terms of how they act racist. They don't probably have internalized this, whereas as in those from African descent, those from European descent probably have more internalized it. But like I said, we're living in a situation where a person is deemed on a, like I said, on a scientific Darwinian level as being less than. Just yesterday, I saw a video of some guy saying, how can you say a pygmy is the same as a white man? I mean, he's literally saying, this is not hundreds of years ago. He said this, I think last year. He was trying to say that white people are inherently superior than other people. This belief still exists today. And like I said, this is what I'm always trying to teach people, that look, we are all the sons of Adam. Anyone, anywhere on planet Earth has the capacity for good or bad, for intelligence or for stupidness. Is the color of your skin is as important as the size of your shoe.
Sister Naima, you were about to say something, inshallah, because I'm going to ask another question, inshallah, if you can make it brief.
Sure. I just wanted to just jump in when you said that Brother Muawiyah said that Islam is the answer. And I think that, of course, I agree with you, is the Islamic model is the answer. But what Muslims need to understand is that we are not practicing that. And the sooner we realize that we are not actually internalizing the humility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has deemed correct for us as sons and daughters of Adam, the sooner we realize that we're actually not, going according to Islam, the sooner we can rectify ourselves. And the last thing we want is for people to say, oh no, Islam solves all the problems. You want to solve racism? Come to Islam. La, this is not the truth, because the people themselves, the Muslims, we have work to do. And it is about going back to Islam. Cleansing the Jahiliyyah, and bringing and reminding ourselves of what does Allah say, what does Allah want, what does Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what did he show me, what did he teach me? The answers are all there, but we need to start listening.